Hey there, singers. This is Sarah Ramsey from the Vocal Lab, and I'm thrilled to share something special with you. Are you ready to take your vocal performance to the next level? Introducing Encore, the Performance Incubator, a transformative 12-week online program designed specifically for singers like you who want to master their voice and command the stage. With Encore, you'll experience personalized laser coaching that targets your unique vocal challenges, and you'll learn in a supportive community environment. This program covers everything from mastering breath control and vocal techniques to developing a confident stage presence and connecting emotionally with your audience. And the best part? We're offering a special beta price for this first run. It's just $600 for the entire 12-week program. Plus, if you're a Vocal Lab member, you get an additional discount. So don't miss this opportunity to transform your singing and join a community of passionate vocalists. Registration is open now and closes June 7th. Head on over to sarahramsey.com/encore to secure your spot. Let's make this your best performance yet with Encore.
And it's just as much the audience's responsibility for a scarcity mindset in the arts as it is the artists allowing it. But the only way you can change something is if you rise up together and you're both changing yourself, you're healing yourself so that you have the nervous system regulation to take on the oppressor.
Yeah.
And the oppressor is a system that says that it values the arts, but doesn't pay up.
Yeah.
And so that's, what you're saying about this intentional culture, about like coming into it and being willing to just learn together and believe the best. That is kind of my sneaky way of creating more healed people so that they can go out and do good work.
Yeah.
Because a healed person can call to task. They can speak truth to power. Mm-hmm. When we are healed, we can speak truth to power. And I don't mean 100% healed. Hello, we're artists. We will be forever healing and forever wounding and forever healing. That's part of our way. But, this idea of repair and being able to repair and own our own mistakes, own our failures, because once you're not scared of failing anymore, that is when change happens.
Welcome to the Vocal Lab. I'm Sarah Ramsey, and this show aims to pull back the curtain on the entertainment industry, where veterans give up-and-coming artists some of the information they wish they'd had when they were just starting out. Sort of a music industry primer, if you will. Welcome to the Vocal Lab. I am thrilled today to be joined once more by Michelle Markwart Deveaux. You may remember her from season 1. She was with me in March of season 1. If you haven't checked those out, that's episodes 19 and 20, and they are well worth a listen there as well. But Michelle uses her background as a performer and director to make business in the arts less annoying. As a facilitator, coach, and consultant, she helps small business owners and those in decision-making roles rediscover their generosity and playfulness, while maintaining high standards of integrity, inclusivity, and sustainable business practice. Michelle has taught workshops and delivered keynotes for places such as University of Utah, New England Conservatory, San Francisco Conservatory, the Women's Networking Alliance, and the National Association of Teachers of Singing. She is the founder of the Speakeasy Cooperative, a company dedicated to teaching artists how to own businesses in a culture of on-demand entertainment and embarrassingly awful residuals. Michelle and her husband are raising their 2 amazing kiddos to be deep thinkers and strong leaders through careful study of the Fugees, Star Trek, and the MCU. Thank you for joining me today, Michelle.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. I like to chat with you anytime.
I always love hanging out with you.
Thank you.
So full transparency, I am a member of the Speakeasy Cooperative, and I have done that was a 10-month business accelerator program last year called How to Run Your Business Without Hating Your Boss, Business Accelerator. And this year I'm in the inaugural program of the How to Plan Your Business Without Hating Your Boss.
Without overwhelming your boss.
Without overwhelming your boss.
Also lovingly known as How to Pee.
Yes, which we really like calling it that quite a lot. So I'm a big fan of the work that Michelle has done, founding and spearheading the Speakeasy Cooperative and all the work that gets done inside that organization. So I'm super excited to be here and talk all things, all things business and arts and the intersection thereof.
I'm honored to be here, and I really appreciate that you would even invite me in the first place.
Oh.
It's really fun having you in the Speakeasy. It's fun just chatting with you. So I'm so glad that I get to be part of this for you too, because this is something that came out of the How to Run program.
Yeah.
This is like one of those extensions of just pursuing the goal, understanding what the long-term commitment was and what you wanted to pursue. And here we are with this wonderful new season getting picked up.
Yep.
And that's how we do it. That's how we do.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It's been a huge thing in sort of shifting how I run my business and how the podcast has grown, which is one arm of my business, you know, and yeah, I'm very, very grateful. So do you want to tell us your story briefly for anybody who is meeting you for the first time today? A little bit about yourself and how you got to be where you are now.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So I started out a singer. And when I originally went to college, I thought I wanted to go into musical theater. But as many of your listeners might understand, they forced me to do classical singing because I was too fat for musical theater, because you know about the whole body ridiculousness that goes on there. Yep. And the interesting thing was that before I went to college, I was mostly singing gigs and jazz. Mm-hmm. So when I was in college, I was like getting a classical degree while moonlighting as a jazz singer on the weekends, and then like hopping over and finally started to do a double major in musical theater and vocal performance. I left that school because it was banana pants, and decided to go into full-time worship leading at a pretty large place. So was in charge of a big 150 person choir there with another leader. The worship team there was like probably 50 people, 150 people. And so it was like all teams. And that's where I really learned a lot of my skills around live music, being a sound person.
Yeah.
That was always fun too, being the one female sound person in a very masculine field. And that's how I put myself through grad school. So I actually went to grad school for worship theology and the arts. Because I thought that I would just continue to be kind of like one of those big powerhouse worship leader, singer persons. And I put myself through high school by running live sound and doing audio vis at there, and promptly realized I did not want to be in ministry. So
that's a big discovery.
Yes, it was a big discovery. It was great. It was wonderful. Those are important times that shaped my life and still influence, but do not have the same influence that it did before. Yeah. And so I opened a voice studio, and I was doing directing, musical directing, vocal directing, obviously singing and performing the whole time, getting the gigs that I wanted. And when my husband and I finally moved to San Jose from Los Angeles area, I really leaned into kind of the whole helping voices do what they needed to do. And many of my fellow voice teachers were not running their businesses in a way where they were making a lot of money. So we would get together, people would talk about, having trouble with clients. People would talk about, and this is in Silicon Valley, which is like entrepreneur central, right? And I had a lot of clients that were working at places like, Apple, Google, Silicon Valley places, tech industry stuff. And I just realized, like, people don't actually know how to run their businesses. Like they're great at the teaching stuff. They're great at all these other things. So we just started to help people. And very long story short, eventually became starting a business to help voice teachers specifically at the time, but now we've expanded. So we started in 2017. We just had our 7th anniversary, and now we're helping all sorts of creative brained people in and out of the arts, singer-songwriters, bands, people who are body workers that work with voices, people who are SLPs, other piano teachers, guitar teachers. You know, we're just kind of using our mission and vision to help artists really understand their own traumas around money, their stories that are in existence around why the arts economy is scarcity based, and just how to think like business owners so that they're not screwed over anymore, and that they also can develop a healthy nervous system around the things that it's going to take to literally change toxic arts economy. Yeah. Because it's pretty rough out there right now. It's always been rough out there, but for artists, I think having some knowledge and some chutzpah can really change. It can change artists from being, from people feeling entitled to art to understanding what they're getting and then valuing it in a different way. Yeah. But that starts with us. We have to say we're worth it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is one of the things that or probably the thing that I value the most in the Speakeasy Cooperative is the culture. It's a community that I didn't know I missed before I joined. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, Sarah, thank you.
I am someone who has been, I don't know, lone wolf, whatever, if you want to call it that. Like I was perfectly happy sort of just doing things on my own. And when I joined things, I was not the person who really got involved in the community aspect of the thing. I just wanted the information, I didn't want to participate in the community. And that is so not what happens for me inside SECO. I find myself very active within the community, within the Facebook group and Slack and all that stuff. And it is I've never been part of a community like that because there is such an open attitude. Everybody that's part of that community is really and truly there to learn and do better and learn how to do better for themselves and their communities. So I think one of the principles that we sort of agree to upon entering is that we agree to I'm paraphrasing obviously, but it's agree to sort of expect the best of people or assume the best of people. And so if there is a misunderstanding, you have to come to it with that mindset that people are trying to do their best. They're not trying to be dicks, so right. So
hopefully
come to it with that attitude that you're going to work things out and help each other learn how to do better, not berate people for making mistakes. And so it fosters this environment of true learning and progress that other communities, I think, aspire to, but not a lot of them actually achieve. And it is the thing that I think I value the most in SECO.
Thank you. Yeah. I won't lie, it takes a lot of intentional work in terms of keeping myself emotionally healthy, keeping the team emotionally healthy, and giving us all, members and team, the tools to learn how to heal so that we can be healers to one another. Yeah. And, like they say, hurt people, wounded people, wound people, but healed people, heal people. Yeah. And I think that that's
at the crux of, at the crux of any sort of growth, edge, and change is the willingness to look at oneself.
Mm-hmm.
And there are deep, embedded, inherent biases and inherent beliefs and behaviors around money, around boundaries, around what should and should not be, that have caused generational woundedness in the arts community.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that Henry Weinstein just got like acquitted in New York or some nonsense like this I just read, I'm like, what the hell is that? And just, there's so many different ways that artists have been so systemically underfunded and so systemically wounded. And then you add onto any intersectionality of that. So now you have women who have, we all know about the whole, she got that role because of the couch.
Right.
And that's a real thing. And then you add the intersectionalities of people of color or people who are in disabled bodies, or the people who are neurodivergent, or as in my case being, an intersectionality of a person in a larger body, and all of the ways that the arts are so turned into just people feel entitled to it.
Yeah.
And it's just as much the audience's responsibility for a scarcity mindset in the arts as it is the artists allowing it. But the only way you can change something is if you rise up together and you're both changing yourself, you're healing yourself so that you have the nervous system regulation to take on the oppressor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the oppressor is a system that says that it values the arts, but doesn't pay up.
Yeah.
And so that's, what you're saying about this intentional culture, about like coming into it and being willing to just learn together and believe the best. That is kind of my sneaky way of creating more healed people so that they can go out and do good work.
Yeah.
Because a healed person can call to task. They can speak truth to power.
Mm-hmm.
When we are healed, we can speak truth to power. And I don't mean 100% healed. Hello, we're artists. We will be forever healing and forever wounding and forever healing. That's part of our way. But, this idea of repair and being able to repair and own our own mistakes, own our failures, because once you're not scared of failing anymore, that is when change happens.
Yeah.
Because you can just keep going and you're like, all right, I tripped. I'll get up. I'm going to do it again. And so, but we can't tell people to do that unless we're willing to do our inner work to become like that.
Yeah.
And that's daily work. So I really appreciate you acknowledging that you see that, and that in my heart, it makes me feel like, oh, it's working.
It makes me show up differently in my business and in my relationships, frankly, because not only do it's a community that I, in one way or another, whether it's like the groups that I'm part of within that, within the group, or in Facebook or in Slack or whatever, but I check in that community pretty much every day in one form or another. So I see the behavior modeled again and again and again, and things are like openly discussed again and again and again in different ways. And so it lets me sort of see how it plays out in real time, and helps me be brave enough to like try it in my own small ways, and then bigger ways, and then bigger ways. So it's just been a really like beautiful runway for it over the last year and a half for me, to where I'm now able to show up in ways that I 100% couldn't a year and a half ago.
Amazing.
So yeah,
that's the goal.
Yeah. So winning indeed. Absolutely. And I thought we could talk today because you have developed, and this is what, like, all the learning within SECO, which is the short form of the Speakeasy Cooperative. It's the acronym. A framework that you sort of to categorize the learning that takes place within SECO and the smaller programs within SECO. And you have a name for it. It's called the BeastyBoss Framework, which I love the terminology. And do you want to talk a little bit? I thought we could talk through that today because I think it's such a great framework. And I mean, I worked through it from the perspective of a teacher, but it is so applicable for artists as well. And so I would love to talk about how artists can look at, working in a framework like this for their businesses, because let's make no mistake, artists own businesses.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And when your personality is your brand, there's like a whole other level of self-regulation that's needed so that you can make these business decisions and choose these business goals and do these things in this framework, in a way that is sustainable.
Yeah.
Because you're wearing all the hats.
Yeah.
You're wearing all the hats. So this frame, I did not make up this model. This is actually, there's an amazing Australian man. His name's Simon Bowen, and he is the creator of the models method. I highly suggest, I don't know if you could show note that guy, but
I definitely can.
And I learned, this is kind of one of his signature copyrighted models that he teaches called the Genius model. And it's kind of like it's a Venn diagram. It's interesting because he kind of says like clients are never supposed to see this. It's more like a sales tool for you to be able to describe what you do. But I mean, I'm an educator through and through, and I also love visuals. So I'm like, well, I'm going to share it with I'm going to share it with my clients. And if they know what the sauce is behind, if they know the wizard behind the curtain, amen, come back with me in the curtain, help me run this thing. So, to get to this, it actually took me about a year where I just had so many iterations, and it was journaling and reading and talking to people and really trying to figure out what does the mission and vision of the Speakeasy Cooperative married to the core values of the Speakeasy Cooperative look like in action? Like, what are we actually asking people to do? Because it's all well and good for me to sit here and like give you my passionate speech about my passions and our mission and vision. But if I can't give you ways to do that in real life in your business, then that feels like silly nonsense. So it starts out with a basic Venn diagram where we have three major components: business savvy. We want people to have business savvy. We want people to approach life with radical hospitality for themselves first and others. And then we believe that the nature of artists and the nature of creatives is to have tenacity. Yeah. And so those are kind of our three main circles. And when we look at the way those three circles intersect, we see that when you are tenacious and you have business savvy, you are going to make income. Money will come because it takes tenacity. And tenacity is not hustling until you die. Tenacity is just holding on. Yeah. That's what tenacity is just keep going. It doesn't have to hurt. It doesn't have to be that hustle culture thing, but it has to be commitment and consistency, right? But when you're consistent and you've got that business knowledge, you will bring in more income. And when you have the business knowledge and you are bringing a sense of radical hospitality to yourself and to others, you're going to have impact. You're going to have, like you just said, Sarah, like you're having impact on your community, your relationships, your friendships, your family, in addition to the venues that you're working with, by the way. Hello, you all know how tricky some of these venues can be to work with, right? This is not an easy thing. Setting up a tour, not an easy thing to do. It's a lot of coordination. You have impact on your relationship with other artists in the community. You have impact if you're a teacher, like you are as well, you have impact on your students or your clients. You bring greater impact. And then when you bring that same sense of radical hospitality towards yourself and others, that deep care, and you partner that with that tenacity, that's where we get intentionality, where you are constantly and consistently seeking to, like you said, believe the best. You're asking yourself, why am I doing what why am I doing what I am doing? Am I doing it just because I think I should? Am I living through shoulds? Or is this really the right thing for me? Am I coming back to, is this really who I want to be in the world? Is this really the money I want to make? Is this how I want to make it? Regardless of what the rest of the world tells you to do. And when you get into that inner intention, then, right there in the middle is that beastie boss.
Yeah.
and people are always like, what exactly is a beastie boss? Because it's a silly word I made up because it's fun and I'm a creative and I love to make up words. And that to me is like, when you're beastie boss, beastie boss, we kind of have our funny things. It's when you have figured out those three things together, where you made a smart and savvy business decision based on taking your needs and other needs into account, and you pursued it with a sense of self-worth.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what it is.
I love that.
It's not making $1 bazillion or not making $1 bazillion dollars, oh, you just got me going. So in the overall, just to kind of, I don't think we'll have time to go through all of these, but in the overall kind of genius model that Simon Bowen kind of teaches, each one of those circles then has 3 further components where you kind of do a deep dive. So what does business savvy mean? For us, that's when we're teaching you about offers, offer creation, all the different ways you can be delivering what you do.
And let me tell you how important it is to actually look at that, because I can attest to all of these areas that you're going to talk through are important, and because we worked through all of them last year, but this one, I didn't expect it to hold the weight that it does, because I'm a voice teacher. I teach voice lessons. I didn't expect there to be more than one offer that I could make, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know what I didn't know. And so actually dismantling that and then rebuilding it is a way more important step than I realized before I realized.
Yeah. What do you think your number one takeaway, what do you think your number one learn takeaway was from that module? I don't actually even know quite how to articulate it, but it was the shift from, because this isn't actually all quite offers. It's sort of like offers and some other stuff woven in, but it was the sense that I didn't have to structure my business the way every other voice teacher I'd ever known had structured their business, which was to offer drop-in lessons and full stop. And that was it. And I didn't have to just teach as many of those as I possibly could, that I could choose to have that concept of high volume versus low volume, boutique versus who's your ideal client absolutely falls into what's your offer as well. There's so much overarching information there, but that part of deconstructing it and going, what is it that I actually want to build, and realizing that I get to choose that. I don't have to do it just because it's the way everybody else does it. I actually get to figure out what fits well in my life with my capacity and my desires and my gifts and talents and what I have to share for the world. What is my mojo that I want to build? Yeah. I love that. I love it. And we call this module Compose Your Opus because, of course, music things.
Yes.
Duh. And I love that you are pointing out that an offer isn't just, it's the container that you use to make money.
Yeah.
And so it gets to be this expression of your brand. It gets to be an expression of what you're trying to accomplish in the world. And it gets to be so tailored to one of the other parts of that module, which is, as you just said, we call it cast the show.
Mm-hmm.
Ideal, because it's a, star of the show, your client.
Yeah.
But like for even with the gigging artists that are in Speakeasy, we're like, your ideal client isn't, you don't have to think of it like a person. You can be like, what's your ideal venue?
Yeah.
Where your, what's your ideal, like, is your ideal client like a movie studios? Are you trying to write for TV and film?
Yeah.
It's all of these kinds of different things, the way that you're really understanding who you desire to serve and who is best served by you. And when we really stop getting out of the, like, I have to take anything I can get gig mentality.
Yes.
That is so empowering. It brings so much power back to the artist. So much power back to the teacher, the performer, whatever kind of art. Because now you are recognizing that you have a unique and valuable skill set that is needed in the world for not everybody.
Yes.
And that it's not supposed to be for everybody. And that the most beautiful thing about not having to please everybody is that you can really, really please those people who are going to be most best served by your special sauce, which is going to be your containers of offers. And those things get to shift and change, and understanding which offer is for what kind of client, and all of that is what we talk about. And then of course, you got to just legally know how to run a business.
Yes.
So and the money. So we do a deep dive into teaching. You were there. We teach accounting principles.
Yeah.
We teach you how to do bookkeeping. We teach you the difference between leverageable debt and consumer debt, and how to use debt wisely. We teach you about business entities, mostly in the United States, and you're in Canada.
Yeah.
So, we also dabble in Canada, and recently I'm learning more. We have a lot of UK clients as well, and Australian clients. So I know more about Australian tax structure than I ever thought I would as a person in the United States. But like, just what's the legality of this? How do you need to set this up?
Yeah.
Getting your bank accounts all in order, understanding how to view the practical sides of money, how much money to set aside for all of that kind of stuff. And pricing. Yeah. Because that's kind of one of the golden keys of making the sustainable business run. And then, in our radical hospitality circle, we have the 3 modules about do yourself a favor, which is about systems, SOPs, workflows, how to write down what your templates are, and making sure that you're automating things that you can automate, or at least giving yourself consistent checklists so you're not spending your most precious resource, which is your brain, on like reinventing the wheel 17 times, that is radical hospitality towards yourself, taking self-nurturing, self-care. Yeah. And then make way for the start, which is interesting. That's our module about marketing. Yeah. So I actually see marketing and sales. So that's it's about marketing and sales. Yes. To me, that's an act of hospitality. Yep. Yeah. Because that's you like setting out the buffet for your friends and being like, what would you like? Yeah. Can I get you something to drink? And it's great. And then hiring, we have a module about employment. So definitely with our multi-teacher studio owners or people that own team-based businesses, they really dig into that. But creating a team culture, creating corporate culture, not in a bad way, but understanding what that actually means. Yeah. Hiring and firing, workers' compensation, and also worker classification, because that is a huge problem in the arts.
Yes, it is
a huge misunderstanding around worker classification. And it gets a lot of people in a lot of trouble on both sides, on employer sides and then on the worker side. So we want every artist to understand when they should be an independent contractor and when they should be an employee, and understand what that means for the other side.
Yeah.
So let's see. And then in the tenacity circle, that's where we talk about branding. And because you're going to have to pursue your brand. Like that's a thing you're going to have to be so tenacious. You know, that thing, remember when we were talking about how many times you have to like put something in front of somebody before they even know you exist, right?
Yes.
And then the two other things in that tenacity area, which people are sometimes like, oh, I totally thought that would be in radical hospitality. But I think it takes relentless pursuit is understanding your mission and vision. So we have like a whole module just about learning how to make decisions, understanding your own core values, learning how to be wise. Like we literally teach wisdom and second and third order thinking and all about decision fatigue. Because if you're going to be an entrepreneur, if you're going to own your own business, you got to learn how to self-regulate. You got to learn how to make decisions, what to say yes to, what to say no to, how to think through natural consequences without getting all wrapped up in judgment about it. And just, so we teach that. And then the other module is funnily just another silly title, Seize the Cray, which stands for being clear and responsible about yourself. And that's about boundaries. And policy writing and terms and conditions and contracts, and really mission and vision is, I think, in that one too. And it's just this really the relentless pursuit of understanding yourself so that you can tell the difference between a policy and a boundary, because they're not the same thing. That
was a moment for me, actually, when because in all honesty, these are things that often get explained like over and over and over and over again, because different people see them at different times and retain different things. So these are pieces that within the four walls of SECO, within, Slack and Facebook and the different programs and whatever, like these principles are returned to again and again. And that concept of there being a difference between boundaries and policies was a big distinction for me that I didn't necessarily understand beforehand. And also the fact that just because you have a policy written and in place, it is not therefore self-enforcing. Like you have written the policy, and now you've, as a teacher, now you've given it to your students. That doesn't mean that, you might still get frustrated, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to have to explain it over and over and over and over again ad nauseum to people. That's not actually the point of writing the policy and handing it out.
Exactly. I learned something that was in my whole year long of trying to figure out what I wanted to make this thing about. I learned I can't even remember where I learned it. I'm so sorry. I can't attribute to the person who taught me this, but I learned that there's a difference between expectations and agreements.
Yes.
And that expectations, when we walk around with expectations, then we're setting ourselves up for frustration. We're setting ourselves up for disappointment, and we're setting ourselves up for difficult conversations. When we make agreements with people and we have buy-in from both sides of a team, or both sides of, a client and a vendor, or a teacher and a singer, that kind of thing. When we say these are our agreements and we put them as a policy, then when someone misses the mark on that agreement, then you can say, hey, we agreed to this. This is what we agreed to. How can we come back to it? And it's it's less about just like tossing your policies at people and then like hoping they're going to do the dirty work for you, because they won't. And, back to kind of the boundaries as nervous system regulation, it is extremely difficult to draw a boundary when you feel hot and sweaty and like you're going to throw up every time you think you might make someone mad.
Yes.
Or you might lose a gig, or you might lose a client, or that amazing venue will never ask you back again because you tell that guy to stop touching you. Like these are big, real things. And so we want to not only teach the practical side of like how to write the policy so that it's clear and easy to read when people actually choose to read them, and terms and conditions, and then be able to show up for themselves when they have to enforce around that. Boundaries are not things that we put up. Boundaries are the ways that we respond when the boundary is in the reaction. It's not in the decision, because you can put up all the boundaries you want, but unless enforcing the boundary is the actual boundary, not the, you just deciding something. So we try to give people language around that, and then give them opportunities to practice in real time, by developing kind of like agency first language, and like, what is your choice? You have agency around these things. We tweak and repeat every year based on new information that comes out about all of these different areas. One of the reasons, people ask me, why don't you just do like, oh, you'd make so much more money if you like self-guided and da, da, da. And I was like, listen, I tried that. It's not for me. That's not the kind of educator I am. I want the most up-to-date information that I can give. You can go and get an MBA, but it's all going to be 5-year-old information. I want to give you something you can use this year, right now, and at least for the next 5 years, So we do it live.
Yeah.
We do it live.
And that, I know you and I have talked about this before, but the concept of self-guided, like this is one of the things that I also figured out in the course of my time in H2RA, was that I should not ever spend another penny on a self-guided course of any kind ever, because I have a massive library of self-guided education in my computer that I have read the first page or the first chapter or whatever of, and never gone any further with, because I don't learn well that way. What I am much better at, and I am now willing to pay more for, because I recognize that it is a far more valuable learning container for me, is to show up live, whether it's on Zoom or whether it is in a room with somebody or whatever. But when there is a face-to-face live learning component, that's when I'm going to show up and do the work. If it is up to me and fitting it into my calendar when I can, it's just not going to happen.
Same.
Right? And I think so many people, that's the truth.
Especially as creative brain people, because there is such a high level of, there's such neurodiversity, and there are so many individuals who are neurodivergent in different ways.
Yes.
And so that's one of the ways that we try to support the artist community, knowing that there's a lot of neurodivergent people in it.
Yeah.
Is to create a online live.
Yeah.
But we have our live event. We actually have an in-person event too, as you know, this particular program. And, you asked, well, how does this affect artists? It's like, that's one of the biggest joys of doing this program for me, is that, I'm an artist, but I also just happen to know a whole lot about the business side of things, and am able to speak to that from a business perspective, rather than teaching you just how everybody's done it all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we've been able to grow beyond the voice teacher community, one of my favorite things into like the larger artist community. And one of my favorite things is when someone comes to Speakeasy Cooperative and they are a voice teacher, and through all of the coaching and the resources and the work that we get to do there, they're like, I don't even want to be a voice teacher. I don't even know why I'm a voice teacher.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, winning, it's like, and then they stay and they create a different artistic business that's really grounded in themselves, who they are and their artistry. It's really exciting. And I'm humbled every day, Sarah. I'm so humbled every day because I really honestly just thought I was going to like help a few people make some more money.
Yeah.
When I started this thing, and it's like, oh, the universe has just given me, I'm overwhelmed. I get overwhelmed thinking about just the trust universe has placed into this whole group of people, and that I got to be the person that started it.
Yeah.
That just feels so cool. And I'm so grateful that there are people like you who you showed up and you did the work, and it's working because you did the work, you worked it, and now it's working.
Yeah.
And it's awesome.
And I sing the praises wide and loud. Like I tell people about Secco all the time. I tell a lot of people about Secco, and I'm always getting other voice teachers and people in voice adjunct businesses to you should join because I just think there's so much value in it. And that's why I wanted to have you back on the show today, because I think that there's so much value in it as well for artists. And I don't think that there's a lot of programs out there. There's lots of programs out there that will teach some like specific music industry skills to artists. And in Canada, we certainly have some like artist development programs and stuff that are through like grant organizations and stuff like that. But I don't know of any programs that really teach such foundational business skills, business building skills that are tailored to arts organizations, arts businesses, and artists and teachers, and everybody falls under that same umbrella. They're all arts businesses, right? And I just think that there's so much value for artists in learning more of these skills so that they're not feeling at the mercy of other people for all these different elements of their careers. Because I think that's often what can happen is that, well, somebody else needs to figure out my marketing. Somebody else needs to figure out my accounting. Somebody else needs to figure out my branding. Somebody else needs to deal with hiring, whatever, like all those pieces, because they don't have the opportunity to learn those skills. And for a lot of artists, those are not, you want to talk left brain, right brain, whatever. Those are not things that particularly come naturally to a lot of artist brains.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's not taught in a way that artists' brains will hook onto it.
Right. Thanks for joining us today. That was actually just part 1 of our interview. And I would love it if you come on back Thursday to catch part 2. Can't wait to see you then.